The second largest nation in Southeast Asia, Myanmar, one of the least developed countries in the world, has experienced little economic expansion. Myanmar's economy didn't formally begin to grow until recent years of greater Chinese-Myanmar cooperation. China and Myanmar are currently working together quite closely. The two countries will each contribute $7.8 billion to help China aid in building the largest deep sea port. Myanmar will provide China a 99-year lease on the port once it is built. But there will always be some skepticism toward romantic relationship stories in Western media. They believe Myanmar would cooperate with China before succumbing to China's debt trap. Why is Myanmar spending so much money on building this port? However, this port project ended up becoming a money pit. In 2021, China made public its plan to collaborate with Myanmar. Over the following few years, China will invest a total of more than $6.1 million in Myanmar. The improvement of Myanmar's research, technology, and agricultural growth is China's main goal. Maybe the Myanmar government thinks that maintaining a friendly, cooperative relationship with China will be essential to the country's future development. Actually, Myanmar is another country that offers gratitude for kindness. After accepting China's continuous assistance, Myanmar made the decision to collaborate with China to build the deepwater Cuba port because it also wishes to repay China in its own special way. So how important is this port to Myanmar? Kayatpo Port in Myanmar has a unique topographical advantage. It is located at Kaliap, a town in Rakhine State on the west coast of Myanmar. Freighters with a capacity of 250 or 300,000 tons may be employed in this area because the sea depth may be greater than 24 meters. If China can help them build the largest deepwater port, Myanmar will eventually have its own seaport. This port will have a big impact on how the economy of Myanmar develops. This port can also help Myanmar lessen the effects of the Strait of Malacca and slightly improve its reputation abroad. In actuality, Myanmar had proposed building a port at KP and had already addressed the matter with China in 2009. Due to Myanmar's underdeveloped economy, it is challenging to provide a percentage of the funds for the port's construction. Out of necessity, the two countries could only sign a temporary component of the agreement on the construction of the port. But by working together, we can see that Myanmar has always had a lot of faith in China, even before the current administration granted China the project to complete. China has constantly been keen to help Myanmar break out from poverty, and this is especially true given the friendly and reliable relationship that exists between the two countries. According to the agreement between China and Myanmar, the project envisioned for the expansion of Kayatpo Port would cost a total of $7.8 billion. The cost of building the port, as well as the cost of building roads, railroads, and a port control facility, is covered by this. But in recent years, the epidemic's impacts have had a big influence on Myanmar's economic situation. China is prepared to contribute $6.7 billion toward the capital port project's construction, leaving Myanmar to cover the remaining $1.1 billion. After the TATU study is complete, a considerable amount of essential equipment, such as cranes and gantry cranes for the port, will also be imported from China in exchange. The airport will now be leased to China by Myanmar for 99 years. But work on a port project has quietly started. On January 20, 21, and 22, 2023, it is projected to be formally finished and put into service. Even though the expansion of the KP port is essential for China and Myanmar, there will always be skeptics. Reports claiming that China has been building up a debt trap for other countries, like Sri Lanka, were unfairly disparaged by several Western media outlets. Many people think that Sri Lanka's collapse is primarily due to China's debt trap. After learning about the allegations in Western media, many Burmese residents have begun to reject collaborating with China to construct the Kayatpo port out of concern that Myanmar would slip into the same debt trap as Sri Lanka. Then, is it accurate? Over the past few years, it has been frequently asserted in foreign media that China is in a debt trap. China, a country with incredibly rapid development, has recently provided assistance to a number of other countries, and its infrastructure technology is also well known on a global scale. Is the country that borders Myanmar. Although it has significant debt, China has historically provided Myanmar with a lot of support. But in reality, the debt dispute between China and Myanmar is being used to expand the country's infrastructure. The main goal of the disagreement is this: it is urgently necessary to build new infrastructure, which includes ports and railroads. These have the ability to enhance the area that is amenable to economic growth while simultaneously providing enormous economic advantages for a city or perhaps a whole country. This is 10 places higher than the preceding 10. Since China started giving Myanmar aid, it is evident that the nation has advanced significantly in the fields of industry, transportation, and medical technology. China can at least demonstrate that the assistance it has provided is not a debt trap, as has been suggested by Western media, even if it has only had a minor impact. This would be a big advancement. Despite the fact that China is occasionally made fun of, this shows how, from a different angle, China has grown to be more powerful and is even a threat to some developed countries. What are some of the potential benefits that China could obtain by assisting Myanmar in the development of the Quiet Blue Port? If the Quiet Blue Port is constructed successfully, China and Myanmar will both be in the greatest possible financial situation. Because of the existing degree of power that it possesses in the Strait of Malacca, the United States will specifically suffer a significant reduction in the amount of benefit that it enjoys in compared to other Western countries. At this time, China has no other choice except to import its goods through the Strait of Malacca, which is located in a region that is ruled by the United States but is being utilized by China for a sizable amount of its imports at the present time. You ought to be aware of the fact that at least 85% of the cargo that China transports over the Malacca Strait is associated with the transportation of energy. The United States is the only country that can guarantee that there would be no change in the price of oil and exert influence over China given the current circumstances. If China is given the opportunity to lease Cuba, manage a port there, and guarantee the security of a prospective marine transit, then China will not be affected by the measures that are taken by other countries. In addition, if this agreement is finalized, China's economic and energy security may be secured to some extent. Additionally, the Katu port in Myanmar has the potential to play a crucial role as a hub for the planned Maritime Silk Road initiative led by China. However, if China finishes building the Kyapo port, Western nations will be unable to have any form of influence over China and will be powerless to stop China from building the port. This is sad information for anyone living in the West. The joint construction of the Katu port by China and Myanmar has not resulted in any detrimental impacts, in spite of the initial difficulties that were brought about as a result of interference from other parties. Despite this, Myanmar did not arrive at a conclusion that was inappropriate in the end. The creation of an all-encompassing strategy is now being worked on by China. Within the next 10 years, the significance of the KP port will unquestionably increase to the point where it will outweigh that of any other important South Asian commercial port. After viewing this movie, what are your thoughts on the port? Do you think it's a debt trap or an important port that has the potential to influence Myanmar's economy? Click on this video to watch about another shocking project.